Welcome to the RDL show, Ryan D. Leaf show. I'm your host, Ryan Leaf, joined by Sky, Jonathan, and Charlie, who are immersed in March Madness. I don't know if we'll get much commentary from them today, so this one's kind of on me, I think. End of our third week. Subscribers have continuously grown. We're developing an audience. We got some real loyal fans. Talking to Rob Berger out there. I know you're already watching, buddy. We don't know if the bat's going to make an appearance today. It has become a fan favorite. I find that pretty hilarious. It's funny to hear friends of mine actually text me later that day and go, "Dude, that baseball bat, man." And so I know we have some fans that are enjoying their time today. I think I have a good hair day today. I want to point that out to everybody. It's rare. It's fun to realize as an individual, as a man still with some hair. Sorry, little brother. I want to talk about a little. We were pre-show. We were talking about football, my history and stuff like that. Some of the guys. Jonathan was born in 1997. That was my final year. I found out recently that I led the nation in passing in 1997. Didn't know that. For sure thought it was Peyton Manning because, also this award right behind my shoulder here, it's the Sammy Baugh Quarterback of the Year award. I won it during a year that Peyton Manning was eligible for that award. How does that happen? So, and also I found out I was an actual first-team All-American. I guess this Friday is a little tooting my own horn thing, but we started going through statistics from that year. And looking at all the great teammates I had and the team that we put together, and then I started the juices started flowing, and they started bringing up games from that season, and it hits me. I can remember every statistic, I can remember every play, and then I think to the NFL, and this is the power of the mind. I don't remember really anything positive or really anything too negative from the NFL. I don't remember much from it. But I can't say it's loss of long-term memory because the focus of my time in college, I could almost give you verbatim my statistics per game. I told Jonathan while we were going through it that I was 13 of 21 for 330-something yards and 5 touchdowns against Cal. And I think he pulled it up, and it was right on. I couldn't tell you what my statistics were for any NFL game, other than there was probably interceptions involved, which is not a significant thing to pull from. But it's just strange how the mind works. Post-traumatic stress and how we push things away. I was doing a podcast for a fellow YouTuber today, and we started going through what those types of things are, how we deal with things differently than other people do when they deal with past traumas and stuff like that, and what that looks like. And we talked about what this last year has felt like in terms of struggle. And I kind of opened up to him about, how do you go about it? And I've never been a guy that's been incredibly emotional or cried, but I have been lately, just because there's so much different in your life, and there are moments that you go through it thinking, is it still worth it? It's always worth it, but there's fleeting moments like that, and it always comes down to being less than for me. I don't know why. And I can only assume that other people deal with this on a daily basis as well. Are you good enough? And I'm a new dad, and that one for me is significant, because a lot of times I lay my head down at night and I think, am I being a good enough father? Sometimes I just feel like a play date for him sometimes. And, am I, being enough for him? And that's hard, because that goes to the core of what really fueled me. And I think my addiction for years was just this less than feeling and judgment. And so it is a constant battle to, understand that we're good enough. Who we see in the mirror is special enough. And in a world of Instagram and social media and everything like that, we tend to feel less than. But I want you to all understand and know, like, none of that's real. I did an NFL social media event about a year and a half ago, and they brought in these influencers who had millions of followers on their social platforms and made a living doing it. And once you start generating income out of it, it becomes a job. So it's never anything real. But they talked to me about how truthful and how real their platforms were, and that's why they were so relatable to other people. And so I just went on my phone really quickly. Now I was like one of the only former players there. They were all mostly current players who were trying to build their brand. So it was more about building their brand. For me, it wasn't necessarily that. So I did a quick search of just all their stuff, and I went through all their social media platforms, and I'm looking through them all, and I'm trying to find one that had a real post, where they said, I am fucking struggling here. Can somebody help me? And there wasn't one. So I raised my hand, the old, 42-year-old in the background there talking to this 28-year-old influencer who's probably making millions of dollars, selling Bed Bath & Beyond products on Instagram or something like that. And I asked her, I said, you talk about how you're so truthful and transparent with your posts and everything like that. But I just did a quick little search, and there's not one in there where you say you're struggling at all or talking about adversity in any way. So how is that truthful? Are you just a perfect person? Is it always okay? And everybody in the room just kind of looked at me like, we just don't ask those questions, and it's a problem. And I was talking to the podcaster today about what this show means to me and what it's about. And it's about sports. It is. And we continue to say that sports is what brings us together so we can have open and honest conversations. And our opens for these shows have been about that. Been about what I'm going through. It's what about everybody else's, because I really feel like my platform on a lot of these social media things are inclusive of so much diversity in terms of sports, in terms of mental health, substance abuse, just life. And if I were not to do it, if I were not to talk about it, and I would be remiss in doing this show. So again, this is just a call to action for everybody out there, that we all go through the same things, that we all feel less than, judged, criticized, and what we see and what other people put out to the world is not real. Their lives are not any different than yours. A portrayal of that is what it only is. And continue to sit in your truth. Continue to reach out to me, to this show, to be part of the solution. And I guarantee you, when you lay your head down at night, you're going to feel better. You got to get up and do it again, and that's going to be hard and a struggle. But what's the alternative? Packing it in, calling it quits. That's not it. That's not who we are. That's not what we're about. So thank you for being part of this show. Let's welcome in Jonathan, Sky, and Charlie, and we watched March Madness play out, and the underdog, kind of come to the forefront. It's like our little show, boys. All right. We started out with 2 subscribers. We've developed a solid following. We need Louisville Slugger to become a sponsor, I think. Otherwise, it's detrimental to bring it out every show unless we're beating something away. There we go, Eric. Thank you, buddy. Before we get into March Madness, though, guys, let's talk about the wild west of free agency, right? Seems like everybody's moving around. Some guys are staying in place. I thought today would be kind of fun, and you guys pepper me with some of these landing spots, and we can kind of have a little round table discussion on, is it the right fit? Was it the right job? Who did what? And what our team's going to look like next year? Who we got first on top?
Yeah, let's start with Mitch Trubisky. We had talked about Mitch when Andy Dalton got signed. Cynthia Freeland was on last episode, and we talked about Mitch Trubisky. Would he stay? Would he go? He signed a 1-year deal backing up Josh Allen in Buffalo, $2.5 million. Ryan, thoughts on him backing up Josh Allen?
Well, good for him. I remember when I was released from the Chargers. Ironically enough, I was on my honeymoon and in the middle of the South Pacific on a boat, and all we got were like the headlines from USA Today. And the headline says, Gerbic, Leaf, Flutie, all released. That's how I found out. My new wife and I went and popped open a bottle of champagne and celebrated because we wanted out of San Diego as much as I think San Diego wanted me out of there. So we were going to wait, of course, figuring I would clear waivers. But then the Tampa Bay Buccaneers picked me up off waivers, which was crazy because they picked up my rookie contract. They could have waited and signed me to a small free agent deal. But no, I got to go and get a second chance with Tony Dungy and that Tampa Bay Buccaneers team that would go on and win a Super Bowl 2 years later. So this for me is exactly a new start, kind of like I needed, where he doesn't have to take on all the onus of being the second pick in the draft there in Chicago. He can go to Buffalo where a team is playing really well, where a quarterback's playing really well. But what they've done is they've bolstered the situation if Josh Allen were to go down in any single way. So, I mean, come on, people. $2.5 million to carry a clipboard and practice football. Let's see how into it he stays, how focused he stays, how hard he works, to see if he, goes there and tries to lick his wounds and say, poor me, they screwed me in Chicago. We'll see how he responds, but I think this is a good first step. I really, really do. Cynthia talked about a possibility of him returning to Chicago. I thought that was a possibility too, but I think it's a good fit for him. They got, he's going to be able to learn from Brian Dable, that offense, which has really helped Josh Allen. So I think it's a good fit. What do you guys think?
I agree, and he has a lot of the same skill sets as well as Josh Allen. Big body, can run, has a big arm. He just needs some more development. I agree. Go ahead, Charlie.
Yeah, and I was going to say the GM even said like they don't expect Mitch to stay there long. They expect it just to be like a little bit of a reset and a restart. So I think just having that attitude where it's like, all right, let me just restart everything and learn from a new team, a new organization. I think it's really going to be beneficial for Mitch.
Charlie, as our resident Bears fan, did you breathe a sigh of relief? Like, okay, now at least we have one less thing to worry about. Obviously, the quarterback situation isn't a contender in Chicago right now, but at least you don't have to think about Mitch Trubisky and have to feel the stress of him on the football field in your team's uniform. Are you happy with this, with the team finally moving on from him?
I am happy. It was time for the Bears and Mitch to part ways. I still wish Mitch nothing but the best. I want him to succeed. I want him to play well because he is a good person. He has been a good teammate, and that's like I saw David Montgomery.
Look at Charlie.
I'm a little sad, but I saw David Montgomery tweet, "Love you, 10." So it just kind of shows the impact that he had on some of these players. So again,
I didn't get. You know what? It's funny. I didn't get a lot of love mail when I left San Diego. So this is good. This is good for Mitchell.
But it was definitely time to part ways. So wish him nothing but the best going forward.
Ryan, I just have to say really quickly, one of my favorite things living in San Diego is now that I'm building up a local following for my broadcasting down here, I'm getting a lot of football coaches following me on Twitter. And in my bio, it says, executive producer Ryan D. Leaf show. And they'll message me and be like, bro, Ryan Leaf? And I'll be like, yeah. And they send me some sort of like weird emoji face or something.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
That's impression on this city, let me tell you.
I did. I left a very good impression on that city, clearly. Well, I married like their favorite girl too, and stole her from all their fantasies, and that probably pissed them off more than anything. I know that one was probably the bigger one. She was a San Diego Chargers cheerleader, just beautiful young girl, and we had a blast together. Oh man, that probably had to piss them off more than anything. I thought this is all how warped my mind was too. I remember. When I asked her to marry me, I actually thought, like, if I marry this girl, like, everybody's going to have to love me. Like, because they're going to be like, Well, it turns out they hated me more because I took the beautiful Chargers cheerleader away from their sidelines too. So clearly that relationship didn't work. So they're probably pretty happy there. All right, what's next here? What do we got next, Guy?
Okay, we do have a lot of questions in the queue. Everybody just pause for a little bit. Let me blast through these free agent marks, and then we'll get to the questions in the comments here. So, Ryan, we'll get through these here. Running back Kenyon Drake signed $11 million with the Raiders. Let's not forget they already have a young stud running back in Josh Jacobs.
I mean, I do not know what the Las Vegas Raiders are doing. I have no idea what they're doing. They're clearly not. You got a mega mind in John Gruden there, who's on a 10-year contract. So I guess he just doesn't. He's not worried about it. I don't know. I can't explain this signing. Kenyon Drake's a great player, but also, who don't we pay, guys?
Running backs.
Running backs.
We do not pay running backs. All right. We don't pay running backs, especially when you got a stud like Josh Jacobs. But I suppose they think, well, now that we've gotten rid of all our offensive linemen, we better have multiple running backs because they're going to get banged up. Because they're going to get the holes aren't going to be the same. They're not going to be the same up at the front protecting Derek Carr and then if I heard correctly, they asked Marcus Mariota to take a significant pay cut. He said, "Screw you," and then now they've released him, right?
Right.
So,
where does he go?
I don't know where he goes. I wouldn't be surprised if New England comes a courting. That could be a spot for him.
I like Baltimore as well. If New England or somebody else doesn't think he can be a starter right away, like Mitch Trubisky, I think Marcus would be a great backup for Lamar Jackson. Again, similar skill set, can run the same offense. Anything were to happen to Lamar, they can step in with him.
After Tyler Huntley, my boy from Utah, overthrew Hollywood in that playoff game to basically lose the game for the Ravens, I can guess why they might want to have a more sufficient backup to Lamar Jackson.
I thought it was a Brett.
Sorry, the free agent rookie couldn't in a playoff game make a big play. All right, let's get rid of his ass. I love you, man. You're awesome. All right, who do we got next?
Move on here. Will Fuller, again, played half a season last year, was suspended for PEDs, signed a 1-year, $10.6 million deal with Miami.
Boy, Miami and Houston just kind of like to swap and go. I guess living in Houston and South Beach are along the Gulf there is the way to do it. I guess. I don't know. Another receiver there, big physical receiver. Hopefully he's going to be suspended. Is he going to be suspended for a couple games this year too, right?
First game.
Yeah. So he's got to sit out one game to start the year. It's looking more and more like they're going to give Tua a second run at it. Fitzmagic has moved on to Washington as a free agent, and they're going to give Tua a second year. I'm glad they are. I don't know if we're going to see much difference in terms of success. Adding Will Fuller will be extremely helpful, I think, if he can stay healthy, if he can stay, off the suspension list, all of those things. I think it's a solid addition. You're going to see a lot of these wide receivers, and they're being told by their agents because of the free agent market and because of the quality of wide receivers coming into the draft and with the salary cap, what they are, sign 1-year deals, bet on yourself, and try to cash in big next year. But who don't we pay, guys?
Wide receivers.
Wide receivers. We don't pay wide receivers.
Not a quarterback protects the quarterback or gets after the other team's quarterback.
Speaking of another wide receiver, Juju Smith-Schuster re-signs with the Pittsburgh Steelers. This after he had multiple offers from other teams, Philadelphia, Baltimore, and Kansas City, we hear, for more money in some of those situations. I give him a lot of credit. He likes his situation in Pittsburgh. He signs a 1-year deal, like I just talked about. See if he can cash in on it to have another big year. But I think that's huge for the Steelers team that is going to be gutted on the offensive line, trying to protect Ben Roethlisberger in his final year. And he's been the leader of that wide receiver crew. And so to get him back is a coup for this Steelers team, and I give him a ton of credit, not just chasing some money, but the familiarity, the chance to be the number one guy probably wasn't going to be the number one guy other than maybe Philadelphia out of those three teams I talked about. So I like it. And I'm a Steelers fan too, so I like having him back. Maybe this year he can really kind of, calm some things down. I know it became a big story of him dancing on the logos when they started losing. He was doing it the whole year, but it proved maybe something to him like, hey, let's just focus on this. The brand awareness stuff you've developed. People know who you are, Juju. You do that well. This year, let's just make it all about setting yourself up for that big contract. Because even though here at the Ryan D. Lee Show, we don't pay wide receivers, the NFL with this new salary cap after the TV deals go through the roof for the next couple of years, you're going to see some wide receivers making some money.
One more wide receiver and then 3 quick tight ends. Charlie, quick comment?
I was just going to say Juju poked the bear. He motivated other teams by dancing on their logo, so just gave them that extra spark that they needed.
Yeah, I don't think that was the case. How come the 11 teams before him didn't do it?
Because, I don't know, the Steelers were playing better then. I don't know.
I love reading into stuff.
Curtis Samuel, former Carolina Panther, signed a 3-year, $34.5 million deal with the Washington football team.
Well, Ron Rivera knows about him, right? Had him down in Panther territory. In a year where you're not able to have a lot of in-person visits, going to be virtual. Watch a lot of these coaches in free agency signing guys that they've had on their rosters before because they know them. They know who they're going to be in the locker room, and they know what to expect from them. There are a lot of unknowns this year, so you're going to see some of these in terms of signings, and this is one of them. Curtis Samuel had a heck of a season with Teddy Bridgewater a year ago. Has had a great few years there in Carolina. Put him to a spot. Let Fitzmagic toss it around there. I think Washington's going to be a team that who won the division last year, in a division that's really bad. So they've made some positive additions to this football team. They're still in the market for a franchise quarterback, and how they go about that, we'll see. But signing Fitzmagic, Kyle Allen coming back, was it Taylor Henneke? He's signed a 2-year deal, so I think they're set at the quarterback position. We'll see how it plays out. Why don't you guys pull up some of these questions before we get to the tight end stuff, and we'll answer those. I got to get some athletic brewing going here.
He has to go. He leaves the set to go get a beer real quick.
Yeah, that's the show we have, guys.
All right, let's get some of these questions going. Panthers getting David Moore cheap. I think it's a huge under the radar move. What are your thoughts?
Stanky 3000. That's a hell of a name. Do we know who Stanky 3000 is?
No, but I like his profile picture. His or her.
What is it, like a dinosaur?
Charizard, man.
Pokemon.
I was never a big.
I don't know what Pokemon is.
I only know it from like the Super Smash Bros. Games. I never actually.
I was more of a Yu-Gi-Oh guy.
Yeah.
Oh God. You guys are teaching me so much. Okay, so
David Moore, formerly of the Seattle Seahawks, actually had quite a solid season last season.
Yeah, he did. That was with Russell Wilson, who can make pretty much a lot of people look good. We don't know what the situation is down there in Charlotte, whether Teddy Bridgewater is going to be back, what they're going to do at the quarterback position. So, you add what you can in terms of additions, and like I said, you can find wide receivers everywhere. So don't go pay a bunch of money for a big name guy. You can find guys that can fill the void and do great things. David Moore, I think, is one of them there.
Who throws in the football? Do you trust Teddy Bridgewater and or somebody else? I think Mariota could go to the Panthers, by the way. Do you trust any of those guys to make good on that signing?
I think Mariota could go to the Panthers and be the starting quarterback there, to be honest with you. So, we'll see. Well, when David Moore gets there, he should reach out to a company called Sunfair because, dude, this food, man, changes people's lives. It is all about the food, all right? I started this last July, July 3rd of 2020 at 298 pounds. I saw a picture of myself. I looked bloated and angry, and I said I wanted to change. And I was home all the time, right? I wasn't traveling for work and everything. So sunfair.com, they deliver the food right to your door, made meals every single day. It's fresh. So go to sunfair.com, go through the process. Go through the process of signing up. Click on Carl Farrow as your representative, sales representative, and then go to the Ryan D. Lee Show is how you heard about us, and you'll get 10% off your first delivery. Today we had today was chicken, I think, grilled chicken and vegetables, and then I think dinner tonight's meatloaf with a snack of shrimp, black-tailed shrimp, or black tiger shrimp. So good. Looking so forward to it. My only issue right now is I have to corral that movie theaters have opened in California again, of not eating shit food when I go to the theaters. I really figured out the theaters being closed for the last year was a huge part of it. But Sunfair keeps me accountable because not only are they a sponsor, but I'm also their brand ambassador. So I can't like show up on screen 2 weeks from now at 265 pounds again. All right. So I have to stay at like 228.
I have
and it's a good thing.
Your movie theater problem, Ryan. Sunfair comes in like the pre-packages, right? So you get a backpack because they don't let you bring food into the movie theater. But this is what I used to do with my girlfriends back in the day when I go on dates. I would have them put like I didn't want to spend the money.
Multiple girlfriends? Ooh.
Plural, dates,
I don't know.
plural.
Throughout high school, I went on a few.
Not at the same time. You weren't a multiple.
No,
okay.
we're not in Utah. And so, sorry. Anyway.
Yeah.
I love the state of Utah and BYU. Anyways, so what you do is I didn't want to pay the extra markups on the candy. I love candy. So I would buy candy from a vending machine. It's like 75 cents and I put it in their purse and then just bring it in, right?
Yeah.
So for you, go get a backpack, take the pre-pack.
Oh, I already do that. I have terrible self-control when I get to the theater when I want to
just bring your Sunfair with you and use that instead
of
I
get it. I swear I'd still bring it. I'm going to a movie tonight. We'll see if I follow through. I guess I'm making all my viewers today accountability partners that on Monday you can ask questions on Monday. Did you do it? Did you do it? And if
we'll be asking.
You'll be asking. So go to sunfair.com. Personalized, home delivered, healthy meals. You can see the transformation of my body. I mean, I'm going to be 45 here in about a month and a half, and I haven't looked this good or this fit in a long. Well, I don't know if I ever have. When I played football, I was just kind of all arms and legs and shoulders and mass. This is definitely different. So I feel better. My mental health is better because it's about what you put in your body, and Sunfair does that. So if you're in the Los Angeles or Phoenix area, go to sunfair.com, 10% off your first order if you say you heard about them from the Ryan D. Lee Show. All righty. A little bit of March Madness, huh? So the playing games were last night. I think a lot of people don't pay too much attention to those games. When the UCLA-Michigan State game tipped off, I was like, all right, I'm 3 for 3. I picked Drake. I picked Norfolk State. I picked Texas Southern. So I'm like, all right, I got Michigan State. They were the only play-in team that I had going past the first round, and they were dominating, up by 11 at half. But there was a little, I don't know if you guys were watching, there was a little dust-up between Tom Izzo and one of the players when he didn't rotate on a three that went down, and they were fighting into the locker room. And it must have carried over a little bit into the second half because UCLA stormed back and ended up winning that game by 6 points. Mick Cronin and that UCLA team has been a team that had lost 4 consecutive games going into the tournament, looked like it halfway through the game, and then found a way to beat a very physical team and probably the most physical conference. Now, I think we're going to see a lot of this. Some of these conferences, in particular the Big Ten, who played predominantly only Big Ten opponents like most conferences, this will be interesting because we'll have a snapshot or our impression of a conference. And, the Pac-12 wasn't known as a physical type of conference this year, but UCLA looked like the physical team, out-rebounded them in the second half, and made big buckets down the stretch to win and get to the first round of the NCAA tournament.
By the way, just really quickly, you mentioned Big Ten. Oral Roberts is only down by 2 against Ohio State right now. Let's go. So back in the day, I had this thing about schools that nobody ever knew about. Nobody in Southern California knows where Oral Roberts is, right? In Oklahoma.
Is it Texas?
It's Oklahoma.
Okay.
So great baseball program, consistently top 25 team. And here you go. My girlfriend at the time, as a joke, got me as a joke, got me an Oral Roberts Oral Roberts Eagles shirt, and I wear it to the gym whenever I go. I love that shirt, so I'm a big Oral Roberts fan. I'm very excited to see if they can upset Ohio State here.
Well, if they do, they'll bust my bracket, so we don't want that to happen.
Bust everybody's bracket.
Yeah. Where are we at? Where's the Utah State Texas Tech game at right now?
Texas Tech is up by 14 with 5
They're running it.
play. Yeah,
Texas Tech ran away in the second half. Well, there's another loss for me. So I'm going to my bracket here.
Colgate was playing well in the first half, but then Arkansas got their stuff together and eventually closed them out.
And my boys in Gainesville with the 5-point victory in overtime too.
Ooh, that was a good game.
Yeah, but that's a bunch of shit. Virginia Tech should have won that game. So
Virginia Tech hit a 3 with like 2 seconds left to go to over.
Oh, and we got the play-by-play here while we were doing our pre-production show, and our play-by-play guy here, Jonathan Ripken, gave us the whole play-by-play. I wasn't even watching the game, and it was awesome. So
everybody listen to Chula Vista.
He's decent.
Sweetwater.
He's good at that. Yeah,
I'm on the call.
Yeah, he's good. He's good at that. Pac-12 has another game today. Oregon State, who won the Pac-12 conference tournament somehow, they play today. They play against Tennessee. I have them winning, having them continue on this great winning streak and upsetting Tennessee in the first round. We'll see how that all plays out. But I do like the idea of the weekend having some first-round games as well as the second-round games. Monday will be a little unusual having games during the day. But everybody's locked in. You made a point before the show started about how you laugh at how people don't pay any attention to college basketball all year long, and then for 4 weeks, 100 million people go all in because of the brackets and the March Madness and being deprived of the tournament a year ago.
Oral Roberts is up by 1. This is why people watch, right?
This
something
is
interesting.
awesome.
Ryan, what's interesting is that in your open you talk about sort of like identifying the reality in like social media and like how it sort of brings us down. And I truly believe that like events like this, like March Madness, people love the underdog, right? Because we all perceive ourselves in some capacity as the underdog. And I think we identify with a lot of these teams. So I think it's not only because it's a fun time that you can compete with people, but I think that a lot of people, they choose brackets based on team colors they like or based on team mascots. But I think that the underdog mentality sort of serves as a reality check for a lot of these people. And it gives people hope. Like when you see a 15 seed beat a 2 seed, right? It's like everybody counted them out and they go and they win. And you can sort of find the application to that in your own life. So I think that there's some sort of realistic association that people make with the underdogs in the tournament here, going back to your open.
It's your own shining moment, it really is. And to see that, like something like that happen, like an Oral Roberts to take down a powerhouse like Ohio State, that would be huge, right? Big Ten champions, get beat by a 15 seed. That's, when Virginia went down as a 1 seed a few years back, not only did it propel that school into the tournament as the only 16 seed ever to win, but it also propelled Virginia because, Tony Bennett said it was the best thing that could have happened to them was to get beat like that. It's the only reason why they were able to come back and win a championship the year later. So you can take things as they come and all things, but there's college basketball all day for everybody. Fun to be a part of. Then we shift a little bit of gear here. And I was doing my Pac-12 radio show yesterday, and we had Adia Barnes on, the head coach for the Arizona Wildcats, who have gotten back to the tournament for the first time in 16 years. And
high school alum, by the way. Sorry, continue.
There you go. And so looking forward to it. But she had a little qualm about the respectability in terms of the men's tournament and the women's tournament. And I wasn't quite understanding what she meant until yesterday when a Oregon Duck women's basketball player put the NCAA on blast and showcased what the men's facilities are for training look like in comparison to theirs. And the excuse that we kept getting was because of the size differential. Well, they've got put on blast for that too. Showed a giant empty space The food has been incredibly different in disparity. What's so silly is that the individuals thinking that they wouldn't be put on blast. That's the bigger problem in all this, that it didn't even concern them or come to their mind like this is a huge disparity. You know, it continues to happen. It is continuously perpetrated in our country, and how we view and go about women's sports. It's always has. It's less than. If you remember Serena and Venus Williams for years at Wimbledon, fighting for pay equality, for the Champions Prize to be the equivalent of the men's prize. You know, that was a huge win for them. This is exactly the same. You know, the women's basketball tournament is propped up the same way the men's basketball tournament is. I understand the advertising behind it, not the same. But everything that has to be given to the men have to be given to the women when it comes to this tournament. And it was put on blast. And we've seen them have to apologize for it. There should never have to be an apology for it, because it never should have happened. Did you guys see this?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was embarrassing.
It's just crazy how their excuse is there just wasn't enough space. Like, first off, you can't even just own up to that you messed up. You didn't make it equal. And then the Oregon women's player showed a video of just an open field in like a warehouse, and there was an absurd amount of space. So for the NCAA to say there wasn't enough spaces just makes it even worse.
The NCAA for me, what's the best way I can put it?
It's broken. It's a broken organization.
They're scamming.
They're a scam. They're a fraud. I cannot wait for this NIL to take place and them not have purview over it. They're going to try to control it. When it really comes to the men's basketball and football, college football, the NCAA is going to be obsolete in, I don't know how long, but it's going to happen. And there's going to be a major conference realignment and shift. There's going to be a power 6 of colleges that aren't under the purview of the NCAA when this NIL and things start to take shape, because that's the only way for the NCAA to dictate anything. They really don't have any power. I would love to see them come down with some kind of sanctions on a team, and like Arizona this year, who's sitting out of postseason play, the Arizona Wildcats, and the Sean Miller situation there. I would love to see them rebuke them if the NCAA comes back with further sanctions for them, like saying that we're going to keep you out of the postseason next year. I'd love for Arizona to show up to the Pac-12 tournament, and then now the NCAA runs the NCAA tournament. They leave them out of that, but I would love them to go against the NCAA, and I can't wait for it to happen at the collegiate football level, because it will show them how toothless they are. They're an absolute fraudulent organization, and they continue to showcase it.
And the perfect example, Rhino, you and I actually had a very similar conversation to this back on our very first episode of our podcast this past season on the Pac-12 podcast that we do. When all the conferences were left up to their own devices about how they wanted to handle the pandemic, whether they were going to play, there was no unity. There was no national unity, right? Like the Big Ten came out first, Commissioner Warren said, we're not going to play. But the SEC was like, we're just going to wait and see how health and safety regulations come out. And the Big 12 said, we're just going to follow the SEC. And the Pac-12, under the leadership of formerly known as Commissioner Larry Scott, decided that they were going to follow in the steps of the Big 10. And then everything flipped, right? The ACC followed the SEC. The Big 12 followed the SEC. They started playing football. The Big 10 had the big player empowerment social media movement that got them on the field, led by Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence. And then the Pac-12 said, you know what? We can't be the only Power 5 conference that's not playing football. But the point in this is that the NCAA was just like, we're going to leave the conferences to their own devices to do it. We don't want to have to deal with this, right? We just want we want them to play because we want the advertising sales. We want the TV contract to be honored, and we want our 49% cut from the conference split. That's all they cared about. And they got it because the conference that their investment in college football right now is the SEC, because it makes them the most money. The SEC is going and playing football. So guess what? The NCAA doesn't care about what the rest, like, I mean, sure, they care to an extent, but at the end of the day, all 5 Power 5 conferences, the investment that the NCAA has in collegiate football, ended up playing football. So they didn't care. They were happy. It showed a disunity at the very top level of what's supposed to be an overarching, overseeing organization for all of collegiate athletics. And it's it's not a level playing field when it comes to leadership. And you see it also in college basketball, right? You don't think that Coach K has had violations in his tenure at Duke? Tom Izzo has had violations in 22 years at Michigan State. The NCAA protects their investments and looks the other way because they don't want to lose that equity. And at the end,
we know who got the bat today.
There's the bat.
Jonathan Rifkin gave the NCAA the bat. I had a thought last night. When Tom Izzo was going through the process, it reminds me of the Harvey Dent, monologue to Batman. Like, you either become the hero and stay long enough until you become the enemy. And it feels like that's the kind of culture we live in, right? At some point, Mike Krzyzewski is going to become the enemy. And it's, Tom Izzo or a conspiracy it's just the way our world works. The NCAA right now is at the forefront of being that villain, and it continues to do so. Now, if the NCAA is watching this and listening to the RDL show, which I assume they are, you are probably going to go need a beer. But us on this show and everybody else who watches, we drink Athletic Brewing. So that's a non-alcoholic brewery, boys. It is some good stuff. So this one is the IPA, Run Wild. We'll have to crack open one during the show. Have a little sip. That stuff's so good. Go to athleticbrewing.com. 10% off shipping of 2 6-packs if you order from the Ryan D. Leaf Show. Have Charlie or Jonathan, have you guys tried it yet? I know me and Sky are
their microbrewery. Hold on. Their microbrewery is right down the street here in San Diego. So I actually, I want to get an invitation now that things are opening up. We're in the Reds here now, which means we have indoor stuff going on. I want to get an invitation to go tour it. I think that'd be awesome. I'll video it. We'll put it together for the show here.
I'll tell you what. Well, you need to.
I want to.
They should be the official beer sponsor of your fraternity, Charlie.
Yeah, that's going to go over well.
I think that's going to be a good idea. I'm all on board.
All right, athleticbrewing.com. Go to athleticbrewing.com. There's the link. 10% off your first 2 6-pack deliveries to your house. Try it out. I'm allergic, so that's why I do it. Tastes great, less filling. Pulling that from Miller Lite, stealing that, I guess. Love what they bring in terms of wellness. Athleticbrewing.com. Try it out. Let us know what you think. All right, boys. This one was something that we dove into last Wednesday when Cynthia was on, and it had never really crossed my mind, but the DeShaun Watson situation in Houston, right, has become something completely different than simply wanting out of Houston and Houston wanting him to stay there as a quarterback. Over the last, 4 or 5 days, I think up to 7 civil lawsuits have been filed against him for sexual assault in some way, shape, or form, dealing with masseuses. Now, they're civil. They aren't criminal investigations, though if any of this is true, I would suspect that that law enforcement's going to take a look into it. They have to. But I brought something up on Wednesday, if you guys recall, and I'm not a big conspiracy theorist guy, but I am a guy. In retrospect, years later, I'll look back and go, why didn't I see that? This happens all the time. But I suggested that maybe the Houston Texans had a hand in letting this or leaking this publicly or letting it get pushed publicly to either give them a chance to walk away from the situation and trade him and saying, hey, it was an untenable situation, with the legal issues that are going on and we had to move on. Or it's a way to pressure DeShaun into saying, oh, my God, I need to change the narrative here. I need to get back to playing football and make it about something else. Now, I could be completely off base here, and I hope I am, but this seems to happen all the time. And we hear about NFL organizations with all the power influencing situations locally like this. So when you all heard me say it the first time, I think you all told me your initial reactions were one of, did he just say that? To then like, oh my God, do you think that could be something? What have you guys seen transpire over the last 3 days that would lend you to think that this may be a larger thing at play right now?
Well, when you first said it, and again, we had Cynthia on and you talked about it briefly with her as well. It just, when you said it, it did kind of hit me like really, I mean, do you think that's actually possible? And then to be honest with you, I digested the rest of the show and then the rest of the day. And I was kind of like, man, I really hope Ryan's not onto something here, because it just, I mean, I really hope you're not right. And unfortunately, my mind started to race a little bit as well. And the reality is the timing of this, and I think we need to be really respectful and careful here, because we're not, we're certainly not down. If this is true, we will act accordingly, and we're not downplaying the allegations of what they could be.
Well, I'm not even saying like, I mean, the allegations could be true, but they could have been being hidden behind the scenes a little bit. I know lawsuits are public record, but a lot of times civil suits, but they could be being amplified by people behind the scenes from the Houston Texans organization. That's why it's become such, not that this type of stuff stays quiet very long, but you know, powerful people have powerful ways of keeping things quiet. And this became a big story this last week, and it was really under the radar. And all of a sudden it was boom, right at the forefront, and has kind of exploded. I'm not taking anything away from the victims in these civil lawsuits. I always tend to believe the victims, because I'd rather be wrong in believing the victim than, you know, be right in on the other way around. So I'm definitely sympathetic to that situation. I find it strange that it became such a public issue here when this was all going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, generally when these things come up, I mean, they seem to be time sensitive one way or another, right? I mean, this is a situation, and Jonathan brought up a couple examples last show of previous situations similar to this, and again, it struck a chord when you said it the first time, because I was like, man, it's kind of left field, and then unfortunately, it really started to sink in, and I was like, uh-oh, you know, maybe that is legit. And look, unfortunately for the Houston Texans franchise, over the last year, they do not necessarily have a solid foundation to stand on with this as is. If this was a different franchise, maybe it's a different conversation entirely, but they've been in hot water for the better part of a year and a half in general, with player moves and, you know, Bill O'Brien and everything going on, and DeShaun Watson in general with free agency and trades and blah, blah, blah. And then all this, I mean, it's really been a mess, unfortunately, for Houston. And
I asked the question to Alex Marvez on our NFL radio show the other day. Why would anybody, because I saw a free agent sign with Houston, why would anybody want to go to the Texans right now? And his immediate response to me was money and was no state income tax. And I'm like, I guess, yeah, right, I guess. But we just watched Juju Smith-Schuster do something completely different. Not go somewhere to take more money, stay with a team that he's familiar with. I applaud him greatly for doing that, because I don't know if you were a player anywhere in the NFL, why you would want to go and play for the Houston Texans right now. Why would you?
Now, is that a personality thing, Ryan? I'm looking up the Houston Texans moves here really quick. But is that kind of a personality situation as an individual of saying, hey, I need to go, you know, get paid where I can get paid, and Houston's offering me where Juju specifically has many options, and he's sitting there with like, look, he's going to do this all over again next season too, and then maybe he gets paid more somewhere else and tries it again, but run it back with Big Ben coming back, see what happens with the Steelers, blah blah blah. So maybe it's a, you know, personal individual situation versus like just the name of the game.
Well, this also can completely dampen any other teams want to trade for DeShaun Watson. I mean, with this hanging over his head, and the NFL probably looking into, they're going to have to, for the personal conduct policy, look into an investigation. I don't know if his trade value, what do you think? Is there a team out there now that's willing to do it? Now, I say that, and I'm always proved wrong by, organizations that will, when I saw Tampa pick up Antonio Brown this year, it went against everything that Bruce Arians said before the year started. So I said they needed a playmaker. They needed somebody added, and Tom Brady helped facilitate that, and they made it work. It wouldn't surprise me, even with this hanging over DeShaun Watson's head, that a team goes out there and gives up a king's ransom for him in a trade simply because it's all about winning in this league, and that's the bottom line.
The Houston Texans. Go ahead, Charlie.
I was just going to say, is there any shot Belichick makes a move for him?
Well, of course.
Now would be the time to do it.
What are the assets that they have, though, to make that?
Oh, they have plenty. They have draft equity. They have the cap of dollar amount to take his contract on. So they're capable of doing it. It's strange. This seems so out of character. But many times when things happen to individuals that shock us, it seems out of character. That's why it shocks us. But we don't truly ever know what's going on in other human beings' lives, what's going on in their minds. Nothing like that. The Open was about that. The Open was about public perception and what we put out to the public and what we really show people. And our hope is on this show is that I give you the unvarnished version of myself, the best possible way I can. I'm incredibly truthful with people, and sometimes it's really uncomfortable when I'm doing interviews with people because they didn't expect it, or they don't want to sit with that. They don't want to hear somebody talk about things so openly, honestly, because that's not what we do in our culture. It doesn't. So when we hear something like this about DeShaun Watson, it makes us uncomfortable, because it's an epidemic in our country in terms of devaluing women. We just talked about it in the disparity in men's and women's NCAA tournament. This is the exact thing. It's power over the female human being in our country, and it continues. And until people speak out about it and bring it to the forefront, it's going to continue to be a problem. This playing out in real time right now with what was going on makes you think of so many other things, like who else has a hand in this, or is this simply maybe this is a big reason why he wanted out of Houston because of some of these issues. I don't know. No one knows what's going on right now. DeShaun Watson hasn't spoken publicly other than releasing a statement that he vehemently denied it. You have a attorney on the other side who's filing these claims, being very public about it. He hired one of the bulldog attorneys out of Houston there. I forget what the guy's name is, but he's world renowned for his defense lawyering for public and celebrities and former players. I think he was Adrian Peterson's attorney when he was dealing with the child endangerment issues a few years back. Tough question, and do not mean it the wrong way. The lawyer for the plaintiff is also an attorney for a Texans owner. Did not know that. Is that true? Are we just taking things now and throwing it up on our screen? That may be something.
That's a reliable source.
All right.
No, Blake Ruffino is a reliable source. Let me tell you.
Absolutely. Shouts out Blake.
Well, I mean that's a little shady. I mean, I will say this: it feeds into my conspiracy theory. So here on the RDL show, it feeds into what we're trying to, or what I'm trying to put forward. It's a real interesting development that has happened. I don't want to overshadow the conspiracy in any way to what has happened to these women. That is first and foremost and what should be the focus of all of this. But it's all playing out in real time during a situation where multi-millions of dollars are on the table, a franchise's viability in the National Football League. It's wrought with drama, and it's just playing out in real time. It's crazy. Now, the real conversation, and we'll go back to the free agency side of this in the rest of the league, is the Russell Wilson part of it. Adam Schefter came out today and said that the Chicago Bears are still in the mix when it comes to Russell Wilson. And if that's the case, what was this all about with Andy Dalton? He was told that he was going to be the starter when he was there. But if they have a chance at getting Russell Wilson, would they do it? I cannot believe that the Seattle Seahawks would do it. We heard they turned down a bunch, but when Adam Schefter speaks about stuff like this. He has some insight knowledge about what's going on, and they're still in the Russell Wilson sweepstakes. How do you like that one, Chicago Bears, Charlie Moss?
Love it. Love it.
No.
I just want Russell Wilson throwing touchdowns to Allen Robinson next year, and I'll be happy.
Oh, man.
Well, yeah, if it were to happen, it's not going to be many touchdowns.
I mean, the Bears Wilson
anywhere else other than Seattle, I don't think he's the same quarterback. I do have a very strong theory about all this stuff. It is rare to see quarterbacks go other places and succeed, right? Ryan Tannehill has done it, but I really think that has a lot to do with Adam Gase and his inaptitude. Tom Brady is unbelievable in his form. Peyton Manning did it in 1 year, but they didn't win the Super Bowl in Denver. So it's rare. Is Russell Wilson one of those guys?
It's magic. Keeps that fan's eyes popping.
It's not the same, man. You know that. He's not playing for any championships.
Yeah, but he keeps things interesting for whatever team he's on.
Yeah, I mean, Russell will keep it interesting. Is that all you want is to be interesting, or do you want to win a championship?
Well, the expectations here are different. Right. Ryan Fitzpatrick isn't being brought in to win a championship.
No, Russell Wilson would be, and then they would again falter to the Aaron Rodgers-led Green Bay Packers. So,
Brian, to your point here, I want to step in just to bow on the players not wanting to go to Houston. We talked about the Raiders as well last show. The Houston Texans have made by far the most free agent moves, 23 of them. And the longest term contract that they've signed out so far is to punter Cam Johnston, 3 years, $8 million. Unfortunately, in my opinion, not a lot of these guys are game changers. They brought in Tyrod Taylor, backup for now. Mark Ingram, over 30 years old. A number of wide receivers over the hump. Defensive linemen, offensive linemen who are solid players but not game wreckers. So even with DeShaun Watson or anybody else, they're not making moves like we said about the Raiders, who are getting anybody else around the league excited to come there and join them, i.e. the Brady effect or whatnot. Obviously, that's a whole nother animal, but they're not making moves to make other people excited to come there like we've seen Arizona do with J.J. Watt, and then they're able to bring in other names as well. So unfortunately, they're not helping themselves out either.
Well, you got to field the team. You know, they are looked upon right now as the worst team in the National Football League, and you have to field the team. So they're going to bring guys in, and it's going to be a part of it. So thanks to all our faithful watchers and question askers here. I heard Fitzmagic said that too about how every week's revenge week because he's played for every NFL team.
He's such a good sport, man. How do you not root for this guy?
Who has a better beard, Sky or Ryan Fitzpatrick?
Sky, by far.
I agree.
Fitzpatrick really is, what's the best word? Terrible. I think it's the best way to put it. He's got a terrible beard. All right. It's just a mass of nested nastiness. That's the way we'll call Fitz's beard a nest of nastiness. All right. But this is the end of 3 weeks, boys. We've done this for 3 weeks now. Next week will be a little different, everybody. I am hosting Rich Eisen's show on Wednesday and Friday, live in studio. So check us out there on Peacock TV. But then I'll be hosting this show from the Rich Eisen studios at noon Pacific each day. So we won't have the faithful RDL show background here, but we'll be doing it from the Rich Eisen show. Hopefully you guys will tune in for week 4 for our first month down. We appreciate you listening. We'll talk to you Monday.